In the life of an empire builder, the morning is not merely a time on the clock. It is a battlefield of discipline where the mind, body, and spirit must be marshaled into alignment. To own the morning is to stand at the gate of the day and decide what will enter and what will be kept out. It is the quiet before the storm, the moment when the air is still, the streets are silent, and the mind can think without interruption. For the Arab billionaire, this is not simply about waking up early to follow a trend. It is about claiming a head start on the world, a lead that compounds not in minutes or hours, but in years and decades. When the first light of dawn touches the horizon, there is a subtle shift in the mind. The distractions of the day have not yet begun their assault, and this clarity is priceless. Those who sleep through these hours surrender the most fertile time for creativity, problem solving, and vision. The mind at dawn is like an untouched desert, pure, vast, and ready to be shaped by the footsteps of intent. In these hours, decisions are made that ripple far beyond the day. The billionaire who owns his morning owns his momentum because he starts each day already in motion, already ahead. This ownership is not achieved by accident. It is the result of deliberate habit, one that is protected with the same vigilance as a valuable asset. The night before is often where the morning is truly secured. A disciplined bedtime, an organized space, and a mind unburdened by trivialities ensure that the transition from sleep to purpose is smooth. For such leaders, mornings are never rushed. They do not stumble into the day reacting to alarms and messages. They arrive into it prepared, composed, and focused, because preparation is the shield against chaos. The early hours belong to those who dare to take them. In these moments the world is quiet, but the mind is loud with ideas. Here, strategies are born without interference, and decisions are crafted with precision. This is the time to define priorities, to determine what truly matters before the demands of others attempt to decide for you. It is a sacred territory that no assistant, no meeting, no phone call can invade. Billionaires understand that their time is the most valuable currency they possess, and the morning is the prime investment window. Owning the morning is also about controlling the pace of the day. When the first hours are dedicated to intentional, high-value activities, the tone is set for everything that follows. If the morning is spent aimlessly, the rest of the day drifts in that same current. But if it is spent with clarity, energy, and purpose, the day becomes a sequence of wins. This control is subtle yet powerful. It turns the leader into the architect of his hours rather than a victim of them. Every empire is built not in leaps, but in the stacking of days, and every strong day begins in the morning. There is also an element of psychological advantage. Waking before others, moving before others, and thinking before others creates a quiet confidence. It is not about competition in the shallow sense, but about living in a state of readiness. When most are still sleeping, the empire builder has already studied the landscape, adjusted his plans, and begun the work that will move him closer to his vision. This head start compounds over time until it becomes an unassailable lead. In the markets, in negotiations, in leadership, this margin of readiness is the difference between those who chase and those who are chased. The Arab billionaire does not look at the morning as a gift from the day, but as territory to be conquered. The discipline to rise early is not born from comfort, but from an understanding of the value of uninterrupted thought. It is in these hours that the mind is closest to its purest state, unpolluted by opinions, unshaken by events, and unrestricted by schedules. Ideas can stretch without obstruction, and solutions can be crafted without the pressure of the ticking clock. The leader knows that the later the day gets, the more the mind is pulled in competing directions. This is why the morning is guarded fiercely, because it is the only time when vision can grow in complete freedom. Owning the morning also means mastering the transitions within it, from waking to reflection, from reflection to planning, from planning to action. Each step is deliberate, the pace is measured, the focus is sharp, and the priorities are clear. The world will attempt to disrupt this rhythm, but the leader who has mastered his morning will carry its momentum forward. He will walk into meetings already having thought 10 moves ahead. He will confront challenges having already fortified his mindset, and he will seize opportunities that others have yet to see. For the empire builder, the morning is not the start of the day, it is the foundation of the empire itself. It is where decisions are made that will echo in boardrooms, influence markets, and shape the destiny of entire ventures. It is not just a habit but a philosophy, a declaration that the day belongs to the one who rises first and rises with purpose. Before the first decision is made, before the first plan is drawn, there is a deeper alignment that must take place. For the Arab billionaire, the morning does not begin with business, markets, or meetings. It begins with the self. Aligning the spirit before setting the strategy is not a luxury, it is a necessity. Without a grounded center, even the most brilliant strategy becomes vulnerable to distraction, impulsiveness, and imbalance. It is in this inner alignment that clarity is born, and clarity is the compass of leadership. In the stillness of early hours, the leader turns inward, away from the noise of ambition, and toward the essence of purpose. The greatest fortunes are not measured only in gold and assets, but in the peace of knowing why one is building at all. Wealth without a sense of direction becomes a restless pursuit, a race with no finish line. The morning is the time to reconnect with that why, to ensure that the day's pursuits serve something greater than mere accumulation. This is where the spirit is fortified and the day's foundation becomes unshakable. Faith plays a central role in this alignment. Prayer, reflection, and moments of gratitude are not just acts of devotion. They are acts of leadership over the self. They bring humility, a reminder that no empire is built solely by human hands, and no success exists without divine grace. This humility does not weaken the leader, it strengthens him because it roots him in a truth greater than himself. The skyscrapers, the deals, the wealth, they are temporary, but the values that guide each step are eternal. The morning is the space to remember this, to ensure that ambition is never divorced from integrity. This alignment also acts as a shield against the chaos of the day. The world of billionaires is one of constant pressure, endless demands, and competing voices pulling in every direction. Without a stable core, decisions can become reactive rather than proactive, swayed by the urgency of the moment instead of the vision of the future. When the spirit is aligned first, the leader becomes immovable in his focus. Meetings do not dictate his priorities dictate his meetings. Crises do not throw him off course. They are absorbed into a wider plan, processed through the lens of purpose rather than panic. Gratitude is another pillar of this alignment. It is not simply the acknowledgement of blessings, but the active practice of seeing abundance even before the day delivers its results. Gratitude changes the tone of leadership. It softens harsh ambition into purposeful ambition, the kind that builds not just empires but legacies. Leaders who begin their morning with gratitude see opportunities where others see obstacles, and they carry themselves with a calm authority that draws respect. In the realm of high-stakes decision-making, this mindset becomes a competitive advantage as real as capital or connection. In these early moments, the leader also reflects on the human side of empire building. The morning is not only for planning profit, but for remembering the people whose lives will be touched by the day's decisions: employees, partners, communities. Billionaires who lead with spirit before strategy understand that empires are not sustained by numbers alone. They are sustained by loyalty, trust, and shared purpose. This human awareness changes the nature of the strategy that follows. It becomes more balanced, more visionary, and more resilient. This alignment is a discipline, and like all disciplines, it requires consistency. The mind may be tempted to skip directly to business, to open the phone, to read the markets, but the leader resists. He understands that without this inner calibration, every decision risks being made from a place of restlessness or ego. By centering first, he ensures that his strategies are born from vision, not impulse. His mind is sharper, his judgment is clearer, and his actions carry a weight that comes from inner conviction. The process is deeply personal. For some, it is rooted in silence and meditation, for others in prayer and scripture. For many, it is a combination of reflection, gratitude, and intentional breathing, a moment to slow the heartbeat before the rush begins. Whatever the form, the purpose is the same: to create a space where the external world has no influence, where the leader can hear his own thoughts without interruption. This is where true strategy begins, not on a desk scattered with papers, but in a mind and heart that are aligned and unshakable. When the spirit leads, strategy follows naturally. Decisions are not scattered, they are concentrated on the vision. Opportunities are not chased impulsively, they are evaluated with patience and precision. Challenges do not shake confidence, they become tests of resilience. This is the power of starting with the spirit. It turns the leader from a participant in the day's events into the author of them, ensuring that every move serves the greater purpose for which the empire exists. Wealth without health is a hollow victory, a castle built on sand. For the Arab billionaire, physical vitality is not an afterthought. It is the foundation upon which every other achievement rests. The empire may be sustained by vision and strategy, but it is fueled by the energy of the body. To command vast enterprises, lead thousands, and shape global ventures requires more than intelligence. It demands endurance, stamina, and resilience. The body is the engine of ambition, and without its strength, even the sharpest mind will falter. The morning begins with movement, not by accident, but by design. Exercise is not a pastime, it is a ritual of preparation. Whether it is a disciplined session in the gym, a run across the quiet streets before sunrise, or the deliberate focus of martial arts training, the aim is the same: to prepare the body to carry the weight of the day's demands. In these moments, muscles are strengthened, lungs expand with fresh air, and blood carries oxygen to the brain, sharpening focus and improving clarity. The leader knows that every heartbeat in training is an investment in performance later. Strength is more than the visible form of the body. It is the unseen reserve of energy that allows a leader to operate at his peak for hours without fatigue. The meetings that stretch into late nights, the long flights across continents, the hours spent in negotiation, all of these demand a body that does not waver under pressure. Billionaires understand that their health is not separate from their wealth, it is part of it. A fatigued leader makes slower decisions, loses concentration, and risks the sharpness that gives him his advantage. Physical training also brings mental discipline. The same focus required to complete a demanding workout translates into focus in the boardroom. Pushing the body beyond comfort strengthens the will, creating a mindset that can endure setbacks and push through obstacles. The weight lifted in the gym becomes the metaphorical weight lifted in business. The discipline to rise early, to train consistently, to improve incrementally. These habits shape a leader who does not shy away from challenge but seeks it as a path to growth. Nutrition is another pillar of this strength. Food is not chosen for convenience, but for its ability to fuel performance. A billionaire's breakfast is not a careless indulgence, but a deliberate choice of nutrients to sustain mental sharpness and physical stamina. Hydration is monitored, processed foods are minimized, and energy levels are kept steady. The leader treats his body with the same care as a high-performance machine, knowing that what goes into it determines what comes out of it. Rest is equally valued. While discipline drives early mornings, recovery is not neglected. Sleep is not seen as weakness, but as a tool of performance. It is in rest that the body repairs itself, that the mind consolidates ideas, that creativity is replenished. The most strategic leaders are those who understand the balance between exertion and restoration, between pushing hard and knowing when to recover. This balance allows them to operate at high intensity for years without burnout. Building strength also extends beyond the individual. Leaders often surround themselves with environments that encourage physical wellness, a private gym, access to nature, staff who support their health goals. The culture of vitality they maintain in their own lives often extends to their organizations, promoting well-being across their teams. A healthy leader inspires healthy habits in others, creating a ripple effect that benefits the entire enterprise. The connection between strength and wealth is also a matter of perception. Physical presence commands attention. A leader who stands tall, moves with confidence, and carries himself with energy inspires trust and authority. In high-stakes negotiations or public appearances, vitality becomes part of the personal brand, a silent signal of capability and control. This is not vanity, it is strategy. The image of a strong leader reassures investors, motivates employees, and commands respect from competitors. There is also a cultural dimension to this discipline. In Arab heritage, strength has long been revered, not only in battle but in endurance, horsemanship, travel across harsh landscapes, and the ability to sustain one's household through hardship. Modern billionaires draw from this legacy, adapting ancient values of vitality to the demands of global business. They understand that the same resilience that once allowed their ancestors to cross deserts is the resilience now required to navigate volatile markets and shifting economies. In this philosophy, wealth and strength are not separate achievements but parallel pursuits. One cannot endure without the other. The fortune that is not matched by the capacity to manage it will eventually be lost. The empire that is not supported by a healthy leader will eventually find itself without direction. Building strength to build wealth is therefore not an optional habit. It is an unspoken law of enduring success. The first hours of the day are sacred for the sharpening of thought, not for the rush of transaction. For the Arab billionaire, the mind is the ultimate tool of empire building, and like any tool, it must be honed before it is put to work. The markets can wait, the phone calls can wait, the demands of the world can wait, because without a sharp, focused mind, every decision risks being made in haste rather than wisdom. Feeding the mind before feeding it with numbers is not a delay in progress. It is the very act that ensures progress will be meaningful and lasting. In the stillness of dawn, while others are eager to see how their investments performed overnight or what the latest global headlines declare, the empire builder turns first to knowledge that is timeless. This may come in the form of reading books on history, strategy, philosophy, or studying the patterns of civilizations that have risen and fallen. The lessons of the past are not relics for museums, they are roadmaps for the future. The mind, when steeped in history, begins to see patterns that are invisible to those focused only on the moment. Where others see an isolated event, the trained mind sees a cycle, a turning of the wheel that can be anticipated and used to advantage. This habit is not limited to the study of history. The morning is also a time for exploring new ideas, concepts, and innovations. Technology, science, and culture are fields that shift rapidly, and those who lead must understand their movements before they disrupt markets. By reading reports, analyzing trends, and studying the minds of innovators, the leader expands his capacity to make decisions that are informed not only by present circumstances, but by an understanding of where the future is heading. This is how billionaires position themselves ahead of the curve, not by reacting to headlines, but by anticipating them. Feeding the mind early also has a psychological dimension. The thoughts and information absorbed in the morning set the mental tone for the entire day. If those first inputs are noise, gossip, or fear-driven news, the mind becomes restless, reactive, and unfocused. But if the first inputs are rich with insight, wisdom, and strategic perspective, the mind begins the day calm, deliberate, and prepared. This is why leaders guard the quality of what enters their mind at dawn with the same discipline as they guard their investments. In many cases, this intellectual nourishment is paired with reflection. Reading alone is not enough. The mind must also be given space to connect ideas, to question assumptions, and to explore different angles. In the quiet of the early morning, a single sentence from a book can spark a strategy that reshapes an entire business. A historical anecdote can reveal a leadership principle that becomes the cornerstone of a major decision. This is not hurried learning, it is deep learning, the kind that transforms information into power. There is also an element of cross-disciplinary thinking in this practice. The billionaire does not limit his study to his own field. He draws from art to inspire innovation, from military strategy to guide negotiations, from philosophy to shape leadership value. By exposing himself to knowledge outside his direct domain, he builds a mind that can adapt to change, see opportunity where others see none, and find unconventional solutions to complex problems. The more diverse the mental library, the more creative and resilient the thinking becomes. Language and communication are also sharpened during this time. Many leaders use the morning to write, even briefly, notes, reflections, or plans. Writing clarifies thought. It forces the mind to organize ideas into coherent form. A leader who writes regularly in the morning develops precision in thinking and speaking, a skill that is invaluable when persuading investors, addressing a team, or negotiating with counterparts. Feeding the mind before the market is ultimately about setting priorities. It is a statement that wealth is not built on reacting to the world's noise, but on acting from a place of prepared intelligence. When the leader finally does turn to the markets, he approaches them not as a participant caught in their chaos, but as a strategist who has already fortified his perspective. His decisions are not dictated by fear or excitement, but by a grounded understanding of both the immediate and the long term. The Arab billionaire understands that while capital can grow through investment, it is the mind that determines where and how that capital is deployed. A sharp mind can multiply wealth, a distracted one can destroy it. The morning, then, is not a time to chase profit, but to build the capacity to create it. By the time the market opens, the leader's greatest asset, his intellect, is already operating at full strength, prepared not just to keep pace with the day, but to shape it. The difference between those who lead empires and those who are swept along by events lies in the order of their mornings. The Arab billionaire begins his day not by responding to what others demand of him, but by deciding what he will demand of the day. Planning before reacting is an act of sovereignty over time. It is the refusal to be driven by the agendas of others and the insistence on building the day around priorities that serve the greater vision. In this philosophy, the leader does not start the morning as a firefighter putting out the world's small blazes. He starts as an architect, shaping the blueprint that will guide every move. This planning begins in a space free from interruption. Before the phone is touched, before the email inbox is opened, before the first meeting takes place, the leader sits with a clear mind and an unbroken focus. The purpose is to decide with intention the structure of the day ahead. Which goals must be advanced, which conversations will matter most, which actions will have the greatest impact on the long-term vision. This is where the discipline of filtering comes into play, knowing that not every urgent matter is important, and not every important matter is urgent. Without this filter, the day becomes reactive, a series of responses to the loudest voice rather than the wisest choice. The act of planning also creates mental order. When the day's path is mapped out, the leader carries a sense of control that resists the pull of distraction. Even when unexpected events arise, and they always do, they are absorbed into a framework rather than allowed to dismantle it. The mind remains anchored, returning again and again to the core objectives decided at dawn. This stability is what allows the billionaire to move through the day without being constantly derailed by noise. In this planning phase, priorities are not scattered across a to-do list. They are ranked and given weight according to their strategic value. This is where the leader separates the essential from the secondary. Some tasks are delegated immediately to others, freeing the leader's time for decisions that only he can make. Others are scheduled for precise windows, ensuring that the most critical work is done during the hours of peak focus and energy. This precision with time is not accidental. It is the result of viewing every hour as an asset that must yield a return. Planning before reacting also means aligning daily actions with the larger vision. Billionaires understand that an empire is not built in a single leap, but in the accumulation of small, purposeful moves. Every meeting, every investment, every conversation must serve a greater design. This alignment is checked each morning during the planning process. If a task or opportunity does not move the empire closer to its long-term goals, it is either reshaped to fit or removed entirely. This clarity of purpose protects the leader from chasing distractions disguised as opportunities. The planning process is not purely logistical, it is strategic. The leader considers the timing of market moves, the positioning of negotiations, the psychological readiness of partners and competitors. He looks at the day not just as a sequence of hours, but as a field of influence where the order and timing of actions can decide outcomes. In this way, the plan becomes more than a schedule. It becomes a tactical map for advancing the empire's interests. Visualizing the day ahead is another powerful element of this habit. The leader mentally walks through key moments before they happen, seeing the negotiations, anticipating the questions, preparing the answers. This mental rehearsal not only increases confidence, but allows for adjustments before reality begins. By the time these events occur, they are no longer surprises, but familiar ground, navigated with readiness and precision. Planning before reacting also extends into contingency thinking. The leader does not merely decide what to do if the day goes as expected. He considers what will happen if it doesn't. What if a deal falls through? What if a key meeting is delayed? What if the market moves sharply in an unexpected direction? By having responses prepared, the leader avoids the paralysis and poor judgment that can come from being caught off guard. He does not scramble, he adjusts. This discipline of planning is not about rigidity, it is about control of direction. There is room for flexibility, but it is the flexibility of a captain adjusting the sails, not of a ship drifting aimlessly. Even when the wind changes, the course remains guided by a steady hand. Each morning's plan is built with this balance in mind, firm enough to keep the day on track, yet adaptable enough to capitalize on new opportunities as they emerge. When others begin their day reacting to problems that have already arrived, the The billionaire has already chosen where his focus will be, already set the course for his time, and already ensured that his energy is spent on what matters most. By planning before reacting, he becomes the master of the day's events instead of their servant. The morning routines of Arab billionaires are not collections of random habits. They are deliberate systems designed to shape the day, strengthen the body, sharpen the mind, and align the spirit before the world has even begun its demands. By owning the morning, they command the rhythm of their lives. By aligning spirit before strategy, they ensure that ambition is rooted in purpose. By building strength to build wealth, they protect the vessel through which their vision flows. By feeding the mind before the market, they prepare to act with foresight rather than reaction. And by planning before they react, they ensure that each day moves in harmony with their long-term vision. This is the architecture of empire, not forged in a single bold act, but in the consistent mastery of mornings that, over years, become legacies.